the Major Reese Hangman and a couple babies. I get
I think that this poem will be familiar to you. Trees by Joyce Kilmer. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the sweet earth's flowing breast. A tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray. A tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with the rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. Indeed. All around us and speaking to the listening heart is the poetry of God, trees. They are beautiful, and beauty is God's most present form of revelation. Beauty is God's most present form of showing God's self to us. When we encounter the real in beauty, we sense a mystery that yields and yields and yields. Fecund fodder for the imagination, that which accesses the deep inner core of all reality. And in it we see the handiwork of God. But this does require a little attention from us. This poem from A.E. Housman, The Loveliest of Trees. Loveliest of trees, the cherry now is hung with bloom among the bough and stands about the woodland ride, wearing white for Eastertide. Now of my 80 years and 10, 20 will not come again and take from 70 springs a score. It leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 springs are little room, about the woodland I will go to see the cherry hung with snow. Attention! Our days are numbered, so we must practice attention. And in this season, when the trees are about us, they are one thing that requires our attention so that we can read in them God's presence with us. Theologian Martin Buber named that we reflectively scan the world for its usefulness to us. Where am I going to sit? Where am I going to get food? Where's my shelter? What can I use to build something? And he calls this the I-it encounter and contrasts it with the I-you encounter. That I-you encounter that fully takes in the independence, the separate existence, the existential essentialness of the other. Trees, not as wood or shade or fruit bearing, but trees in their own majestic wholeness. Scripture features that early iconic tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. By the way, the Hebrew language doesn't actually name it as an apple tree. That's just another one of those examples of how all the years of mythology around Scripture put something in our head so we no longer actually know what Scripture says. We have to pay attention to Scripture too. It's not an apple tree, but it certainly is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and it does have fruit. And God will use that fruit, that tree, the stuff of the world, to help us to know, to learn about God. There is no sort of pre-existing knowledge in our head about God. We're not born with it, but we come into the world and encounter this world that is full of the stuff that God created for us to understand God's perennial presence. How hard it is to paint a tree. I think this may be why I never took after my mother, the artist. I gave up because every time I tried to paint a tree, I just couldn't do it. It looked horrible. Trees are incredibly complex forms. Theologian Jonathan Edwards felt that the essence of true religious experience is for us to be overwhelmed as we glimpse the beauty of God. He writes, God is the foundation and fountain of all being, all beauty, from whom all is perfectly derived, and on whom all is most absolutely and perfectly dependent, of whom and through whom and to whom all being and all perfection and all beauty is where the sum of our comprehension is of the excellence of God. Divine beauty then is not just to be seen, it's to be reflected in God's image bearers. God's beauty is reflected in the trees that bear his image, in the grass that bears God's image, in the you and me that bear God's image. As human beings, we are renewed by the transformative work of saving grace, and so we too become the supreme instance of God reflected here on earth. And so we are grounded in beauty, and we are saved by beauty. I'll let poet Mary Oliver have the last word today. When I am among the trees, especially the willow, the honey locusts, equally the beech, oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness, I would almost say they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches. They call again. It's simple, they say. And you too have come to the world to do this. To go easy. To be filled with light. And to shine.